The moment you walk away from an avoidant, everything changes. Would you like me to also give you 3 alternative power hook versions so you can pick the one with the strongest punch? When you stop chasing, you stop feeding their ego, and something fascinating happens. You create a space they didn't realize could exist. An avoidant thrives on the push and pull dynamic because it allows them to keep control. They know you'll keep calling, texting, and trying to fix the connection. But when you go silent, you take away their safety net. You disrupt the script they've been running in their mind, the one where you're always available, always reaching out, and always forgiving. This silence is not about playing games. It's about reclaiming your energy and your self-worth. You're no longer pouring your attention into someone who only notices you when you're at arm's length. That pause you create is like oxygen to a flame. It makes them suddenly aware of how much they took for granted. Silence forces reflection. It's in the quiet moments that an avoidant starts to feel the absence of your presence. They remember your voice, your laughter, the way you made them feel safe even when they couldn't admit it. Your withdrawal disrupts their comfort zone and exposes the emotional gap your presence used to fill. It's human nature to want what's suddenly unavailable, and avoidants are no different. In fact, they're often more sensitive to loss than they appear. They've built walls not because they don't care, but because they fear intimacy, and your silence makes them confront that fear head on. The beauty of silence is that it works on 2 levels. While it makes them reflect, it also gives you space to heal and gain perspective. You start to see the relationship without the fog of constant emotional chasing. You realize that your value doesn't come from someone's approval. It comes from how you treat yourself. That shift in mindset is powerful because it breaks the cycle. You're no longer the one running toward them while they run away. Instead, you're standing still, strong in your own worth, watching them decide whether they have the courage to meet you where you are. And here's the secret. They almost always notice. They may reach out with casual messages, pretending nothing's wrong. They may act like they suddenly miss you or want to talk. That's the moment you know your silence has spoken louder than any argument or explanation could. It's not about revenge or manipulation. It's about creating a reality where you're no longer an option to be taken for granted. You've shifted the balance without saying a word. Silence is your superpower because it sends a clear, undeniable message. I choose me. It reminds both of you that your time, attention, and love are valuable, and not everyone gets access to them. And once you felt the peace that comes from stepping back, you may realize the most powerful part of silence isn't making them miss you. It's remembering you never needed to chase them in the first place. If you'd like, I can now write Keynote 2 Cav in the same deep, motivational tone so your speech flows as one connected piece. The moment you walk away, the entire dynamic shifts. Up until now, the avoidant has been holding the emotional upper hand. They've been dictating the pace, deciding when to engage, when to withdraw, and how close they'll let you get. You've been the one adjusting, chasing, and bending to fit into their comfort zone. But when you reject them, when you physically, emotionally, and mentally step back, you take that power and place it squarely in your own hands. It's not just about creating distance. It's about flipping the unspoken script. You are no longer the one seeking validation. You become the one who must be pursued. Avoidants are used to you being there, to the idea that no matter how much they pull away, you'll still show up. Your consistent presence, even through their emotional cold spells, has allowed them to feel secure without ever having to fully invest. But when you walk away, that illusion shatters. You've changed the rules. Now they have to ask themselves hard questions. Did I push too far? Did I lose something I actually value? Why aren't they running after me this time? That sudden absence of pursuit creates a void they can't easily ignore. Walking away is not a passive act. It's an active declaration of self-worth. You're saying, I won't fight for a place in your life if you can't meet me halfway. This is powerful because it forces the avoidant to reevaluate your importance in their world. They may have convinced themselves that you needed them more than they needed you, but your absence proves otherwise. It shifts the energy from them being the prize to you being the one who decides whether they still have a place in your life. In that flipped power dynamic, you hold something they can't control, access to you. Avoidants tend to fear intimacy, but they also fear the permanent loss of someone who made them feel seen and cared for. By walking away, you awaken that fear, not out of cruelty, but as a natural consequence of protecting your own boundaries. You're showing them through action that love is not unconditional when respect and reciprocity are missing. The most remarkable part is what this does for you. As you take those steps back, you start to see your own value more clearly. You stop measuring your worth by how much they respond to you and start measuring it by how you respond to yourself. Your focus shifts from how can I get them to love me to how can I love myself enough to never settle again. That change in mindset is magnetic. Ironically, it often makes the avoidant more interested because they're now drawn to the strength and independence they can't control. When the power dynamic flips, it's not about winning or losing. It's about reclaiming balance. Whether they come back or not, you've made it clear that your love is a choice, not a given. And that choice now belongs to you. If you want, I can continue with no thrushing so the speech builds momentum without losing emotional impact. Avoidants crave what they can't control, and nothing disrupts their sense of control more than your absence. When you're always available, replying instantly, rearranging your plans, making endless efforts to connect, you become predictable. Predictability feels safe for them in one way, but it also makes them take you for granted. The moment you step back, that sense of certainty vanishes. Suddenly, you are no longer the person they can count on to always be there, and that triggers something deep inside them. It's not that they stop valuing you when you're present, it's that they don't fully feel the weight of your value until you're gone. For an avoidant, control is a form of emotional protection. They manage how close you can get because vulnerability feels risky to them. When you're chasing, they're in the driver's seat. They decide when to answer, how much to share, and how much of themselves to reveal. But when you remove yourself from the game, when you stop engaging in the back and forth, they lose that position of power. Now, they're faced with uncertainty. Where did you go? Who are you spending time with? Are you moving on without me? That uncertainty sparks curiosity, which can quickly turn into desire. Humans, by nature, are wired to value scarcity. When something feels rare or at risk of being lost, we instinctively assign it more importance. Your availability used to be a constant, and now it's not. That shift turns you a mystery again. They start to replay your interactions, wondering if they misread your patience as weakness. They question why you're not reaching out and whether someone else might be capturing your attention. In that moment, they're no longer avoiding. They're searching. But here's the key. This isn't about playing hard to get or manipulating them. It's about breaking a cycle that has kept you both stuck. By no longer making yourself endlessly accessible, you teach them that connection with you is a privilege, not a guarantee. That lesson is powerful because it forces them to confront their own fears of loss and intimacy. They may have convinced themselves they were safer by keeping you at arm's length, but the possibility of losing you entirely forces them to reassess that belief. While they're navigating this unfamiliar terrain, you're doing something equally important. You're reclaiming your time, energy, and peace. You're no longer waiting by the phone or anxiously interpreting every small gesture. You're investing in yourself, in your happiness, and in people who actually meet your effort. Ironically, that self-focus is what often draws the avoidant back in. They see you moving forward, confident and unshaken, and they can't control the pull they feel toward you. When they crave you again, it's not because you begged for their attention, it's because you took it away. You've shifted from being the constant in their life to being the choice they have to make. And that choice feels entirely different when they realize they could lose you for good. If you'd like, I can now write keynote for keynote in the same intense, emotional style so the momentum of your speech keeps building. Boundaries and self-respect speak louder than any text you could send. Words can be ignored, twisted, or brushed aside, but actions rooted in self-worth are impossible to overlook. When you set clear boundaries with an avoidant, you're not punishing them. You're defining how you deserve to be treated. You're showing them that your love is not unconditional when it comes at the expense of your own dignity. And this, more than any pleading or convincing, changes the way they see you. An avoidant is used to emotional flexibility from others, people bending, adjusting, and overcompensating to bridge the emotional gap they create. But when you draw a line, when you say, "This is what I will and won't accept," you disrupt their usual dynamic. You're no longer reinforcing their belief that they can control the closeness without consequence. Your boundaries introduce accountability, a concept that often forces them to rethink how they engage with you. Self-respect is magnetic. It signals that you value your time, your energy, and your emotional well-being too much to keep investing in a one-sided relationship. When you embody that mindset, you naturally command more respect. not just from the avoidant, but from everyone around you. They may not say it, but an avoidant notices when you stop over-explaining yourself, when you no longer justify your needs, and when you walk away from conversations or situations across your limits. That shift in behavior is felt, not just seen. Here's the thing, boundaries aren't ultimatums. They're not about control or manipulation, they're about clarity. You're letting the other person know the terms under which you can remain connected in a healthy way. For an avoidant, this can be confronting because it strips away their ability to coast without investing emotionally. It forces them to make a choice, step up to meet you at your level, or lose access to you. And the beauty of this is that you don't have to chase their decision. You simply hold your ground. Boundaries work because they're consistent. If you say you won't tolerate being ignored for days, you mean it, and you act accordingly when it happens. If you decide you won't beg for attention, you follow through. That consistency is what teaches people how to treat you. Without it, words become noise. With it, your silence and action speak volumes. For the avoidant, seeing you stand firm changes the game. They can no longer rely on the old pattern where you bend just to keep the peace. They begin to realize that closeness with you requires effort, respect, and reciprocity. And for the first time, they might feel the weight of losing you, not because you threatened it, but because your boundaries naturally create that reality. Ultimately, boundaries and self-respect are not just tools to influence them. They're the foundation of your own emotional freedom. They remind you that love should never cost you your self-worth, and anyone who truly values you will rise to meet the standards you set without you having to lower them. Do you want me to go ahead and craft a keynote 5 next so your whole speech is complete in one consistent style? The power isn't in their return, it's in your choice of what to do when they come back. Avoidants often circle back once they feel the absence of your presence. Once they've had time to realize that the connection they took for granted is no longer within their control. They may send a casual message, act like nothing happened, or even express genuine regret. But the real turning point isn't whether they reappear. It's how you respond when they do. This moment is where all your growth, boundaries, and self-respect are tested. When they come back, it can be tempting to see it as validation, proof that they did care all along. But if you rush to welcome them without assessing their intentions or behavior, you risk falling back into the same cycle that left you drained in the first place. That's why this stage is not about their actions. It's about yours. You now hold the emotional leverage. You decide whether they've earned a place in your life again, and on what terms. Choosing how to respond requires clarity. You need to ask yourself, have they truly changed? Or are they simply missing the comfort you once provided? Are they ready to engage at the level you deserve? Or are they just seeking reassurance before retreating again? Your choice here defines the tone of any future interaction. By taking your time and not rushing into old patterns, you send a clear signal that access to you is not automatic. It's a privilege. The real empowerment comes from knowing you don't need them to return for you to feel complete. You've already proven to yourself that you can create peace, happiness, and fulfillment without their presence. Their reappearance is simply a data point, not a lifeline. It's an opportunity to evaluate, not an obligation to reconcile. When you hold that perspective, you free yourself from the emotional roller coaster of their comings and goings. Sometimes the most powerful choice is to close the door completely. Other times you may allow them back in, but with a new set of boundaries and expectations. Either way, the decision is yours, and that's where your strength lies. By making a choice that aligns with your values and well-being, you ensure that your self-respect remains intact, no matter the outcome. An avoidant may beg for your love once they realize it's slipping away. But remember, love built on desperation isn't the same as love built on commitment. The goal isn't to get them to chase you. It's to create relationships where both people choose each other consistently and willingly. Whether you decide to give them another chance or let them go, the victory is in knowing you acted from a place of strength, not need. In the end, their return is not the happy ending. It's just a chapter. The true ending is the one you write for yourself, where you are no longer defined by whether someone stays or leaves, but by the unwavering truth that you always choose you first. It's not the absence that changes them. It's the version of you they see when you return to yourself. When you've been caught in the loop with an avoidant, much of your identity can become wrapped around managing their moods, anticipating their pullbacks, and adjusting yourself just to keep the connection alive. You may have forgotten you looked like when you weren't chasing, when you weren't overanalyzing every word, when you weren't trying to hold everything together by yourself. But the moment you step back and pour that energy into yourself, everything shifts, not just for you, but for how they perceive you. Avoidants are drawn to independence and strength, even if their own fears keep them from sustaining closeness. When they see you grounded, confident, and thriving without their constant approval, it disrupts the image they've built of you as someone who will always be there no matter what. You become unpredictable in the best way. Not volatile, but full of self-assurance and purpose that doesn't hinge on their behavior. That transformation is magnetic because it reframes you as someone they can't control, someone who exists fully beyond the confines of their emotional limitations. This version of you doesn't wait for their text to decide if you're having a good day. You don't put your plans on hold in case they might show up. You don't lose sleep over mixed signals or cryptic silences. Instead, you focus on your work, your passions, your health, your friendships, the parts of you that make you feel alive and complete. And here's the irony: that very independence, which once made them pull away, now becomes the thing that draws them closer. But the change isn't just for their benefit, it's for yours. When you return to yourself, you remember that your life is big, wide, and full of possibilities that have nothing to do with whether this person chooses to participate in it. You stop moving through the world from a place of lack and start moving from a place of abundance. And that inner shift is far more powerful than anything you could try to convince them of with words. If they notice and try to re-engage, it's not because you've manipulated them, it's because they can't help but respond to the energy of someone who knows their worth. The dynamic no longer revolves around their comfort zone. It revolves around whether they can meet you where you are now. And if they can't, you no longer feel the urge to drag them along. The truth is, the strongest version of you doesn't just make an avoidant miss you. It changes the entire way you approach relationships. You stop accepting crumbs because you know you're capable of building a table full of everything you need. You stop fearing their absence because you've already proven to yourself that you can thrive without them. And in that truth lies the ultimate shift. Whether they come closer or drift away, you are already home within yourself.